Robert Wasman, and welcome back to the Journalistic Revolution. Sorry, Matthew couldn't be with us for the introduction today, but we did a Skype interview over the week with former Staff Sergeant Mike Troy to get a former military's take on the Liberty Movement as a whole, Second Amendment rights, and some other subjects that we decided to discuss about the Liberty Movement and the direction it should be taking. So without further ado, here is our Skype interview with Mike Troy.
Hello, everybody. We're on a Skype interview with Mike Troy. He is a former military. He just received his release papers, honorable discharge. He was with Army Intelligence, if you can call it that. A little oxymoron for you. But we are going to be doing an interview and getting his take on the Liberty Movement as a soldier who's been deployed overseas twice, Mike?
Yep.
Twice. So we've just got a few questions for him, so enjoy the interview. Mike, would you introduce yourself to everybody?
Pretty much what Matt just said. No, I'm Mike Troy. I got my honorable discharge from the military a little over a week ago after 9+ years of service. I wasted 24 months of my life in Iraq that I'll never get back. And I kind of took the red pill to the Liberty Movement about mid to late 2011 on my way back from my second tour. And now that I am out, I made my parole and I have restored the freedoms we already have. We have what's left. I'm anxious to get as active as I can.
Awesome. Good. So, Mike, as a whole, what is your opinion of the Liberty Movement, like as it stands right now?
That is kind of a twofold question. I think that we are the strongest we've ever been, but I also think that we're getting a bit too divided with the movement itself.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is I think that people are confusing the man with the original message for the movement's message. Like Dr. Paul has always stated that the message was never about him. Granted, he followed this movement, and the message has been kind of molded around him, but it's never been about one man. And I think that the no one but Paul crowd, or Ron in this case, the no one but Ron Paul crowd can be just as overzealous as we like to claim the anyone but Obama crowd was. And I think it's counterproductive. I think that while we do have decent numbers, we still need more numbers. And I think that based on what I've seen, the anti-Rand crowd, the anti-Johnson crowd, the whatever crowd, I think we need to establish a little more numbers and deal more with a ribeye as opposed to trying to start off with a porterhouse.
Yeah, so I see what you're saying there. As far as the anti groups that we're starting to see, do you feel that there is a common ground that they should be reaching for instead of trying to figure out their differences?
Of course, just like with the liberal-minded people and the conservative-minded people and the whatever people, I think that we should try to focus more on the areas that we are more closely ideologized with, as opposed to focusing on the areas that we're more extreme on. I think we should try to come together and mesh our common elements, as opposed to dwelling on the, well, you're far of this, or what have you. Instead of dwelling on the extremes, focus where we have a common ground.
Now, when you say the common ground, are you referring to liberty and freedom, or I'm assuming you are, but is there anything you want to add to those particular parts that we all have common ground on?
I think the most basic tenets, for lack of a better word, are, individual freedom, economic freedom, just having the freedom to do what you want as long as you don't harm someone else, without getting into the issue by issue specifics. Just the overall movement is about just individual liberty and just living your life how you see fit, without worried about some bureaucrat trying to micromanage that life.
So so what you're saying is that we should have a decided upon principles and philosophies, not necessarily actual movements or plans of attack, before we can move forward and grow and expand?
Exactly.
Awesome.
So in your opinion, this is what the focus should be overall? What you were just talking about in a short answer, yes or no? I mean, the focus should just be picking what we do all agree on and sticking to that
More or less, yes. I think that the more and more common ground we are able to establish, that'll be, I guess, potentially the path of least resistance to trying to mesh the other more extreme areas of opposition than trying to just zealously attack those extreme areas. I think we should work on where we have common ground, and then if we can get to that point, then we can worry about the more, I guess, the more spread out branches of the tree.
Okay. Well, that's a great segue into the next question. I mean, do you believe that it's possible for us to work with liberals and conservatives, or even be able to bring them into the fold?
I think as long as both party, not parties as political parties, but I think as both ideologies have multiple things in common. Of course, I mean the great thing about individual freedom and limited government and all that kind of stuff is that for me personally, my ideology is I can both agree with and disagree with pretty much every ideology. I can in some areas I can get along with liberals or Democrats or what have you, and on the counter perspective, I can get along with conservatives and Republicans. I can agree somewhat with anarchists. I can agree with independents. It just the beauty of tolerance of others is you can tolerate or accept their views without necessarily having to endorse them or agree with them.
Kind of like Voltaire said when he said, you have the right to think how you wish and let others enjoy the right as well.
Precisely.
Do you think if we kept our focus on economic freedom, liberty, freedom, just in general, as a movement, the principles and the views would be easier to espouse to liberals and conservatives to actually maybe gain their love of freedom and liberty to bring them into the movement, as opposed to if they came in and saw this bickering back and forth over nonsense? You think it would be easier?
Yes, of course. I would almost the moment you said the whole bickering thing is kind of the moment that I can envision myself walking into a concert where everyone's kind of staying still, as opposed to walking into a concert where the mosh pit's already taking place. You want to jump into a virtual mess, or do you want to jump into a more not collective but more
Calm?
Yeah,
it's a bad word, Mike. Collectivism.
My bad. Yes, I remember that from your previous video. I think that the internal bickering, I think that just fuels the fire of everything that those opposed to our ideology thrive on. So the more we bicker back and forth over the all the individual issues or our wherever we disagree with each other, I think that's just adds fuel to the fire of a fire that's already too high.
Absolutely. Yeah, not to bring up old wounds, but the like the Alex Jones Piers Morgan thing that just happened. I wrote an article on it stating that everyone who's now in the liberty movement who are now actively attacking conspiracy theorists fell for the trap that Piers Morgan set for them. Understanding that there was a divide there in the movement, and he exploited it.
Yeah, Piers Morgan, he is good at what he does, and that's why he is in the place he is, and that's why he does what he does.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he brought on Alex Jones because Alex Jones, he's kind of like to the liberty movement what Dane Cook is to comedy. He's very explosive. I mean, I don't find Dane Cook funny, but I think when he impersonated the alien on stage, like whatever. But
he serves his purpose.
Yeah, he serves his purpose, and I'm not necessarily a follower or a subscriber of Alex Jones or Infowars as I guess he hosts. I don't think that. I don't know. Like I said, I don't think we need to try to go for the porterhouse before we get to the ribeye. I mean, Alex Jones, he does have a large following. Most of his followers or subscribers or whatever, I guess, they are obviously good for the movement in some ways, and as some people would say, bad for the movement in other ways. But they are numbers. They do believe what we believe for the most part, I guess. And I want to make a too generalized comment, but I just think that more of the obvious issues like auditing, ending the Fed, and ending our empire, and telling Ben Bernanke, where to shove it. I think those are more of the key issues than trying to not necessarily worry about these lesser known issues like I see chemtrails on my daily news feed. Now, I don't really subscribe to any, conspiracy theories myself because I haven't not cared. I haven't bothered to dive into that wormhole yet. I figure when there's time for me to reenact Alice in Wonderland, I figure there's a time and a place for it. But I think there are more important, more accepted issues, and that the liberty movement is based around than worrying about whether or not who orchestrated 9/11 or what the guys in the sky are writing in the sky or what have you.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's kind of what we covered in that earlier video, that conspiracy theories have their place. We'll sit and talk about them and have fun with them, but whenever I'm trying to espouse the views to bring somebody into the freedom is popular argument, the last thing I'm going to do is present them, oh yeah, and by the way, our government did this to the towers. It's not going to win anybody over. So I tried to keep conspiracy theories where they belong.
Trying to be a pragmatist. Some things don't belong in certain areas.
Yeah.
I mean, history is filled with conspiracies. Some have been proven true, others haven't yet, and they're still under investigation. I just think that some issues that society will prejudicially consider more crazier than others, when they are affiliated and associated with the more serious issues, not more serious, but more well-known issues like the Fed and our bogus foreign policy and our bogus drug laws and drug war. I think when you affiliate one with the other, one of which being crazy and one of which being more, I guess, accepted, because if something was that crazy, it probably wouldn't have overwhelmingly passed the House. I mean, like 98 to 97. I mean, they obviously weren't voting on chemtrails. Not that I'm trying to downplay chemtrails, because I haven't myself researched it enough, but I just think that we should worry about focusing on the more accepted issues as opposed to the more, people are going to hate me for saying this, the more crazier ones.
Well, it's not unreasonable to believe that if you can implement the things that are popular issues and reduce government and get government under control, that you could probably effectively change those other conspiracy theories like chemtrails. If you can bring apart among like everybody this belief that we need a smaller government, you can reduce it, and you can do those theoretical things like Ron Paul spoke about, like cutting out $1 trillion by getting rid of certain things like the Department of Education and Homeland Security and all that other garbage. That those other things that are conspiracy things kind of go away in their own right because you got government under control.
What I would say is that we would be able to find out the answers for sure. If you reduce government, a lot of those programs get shut down. Those programs get shut down. Freedom of Information Act means we can actually go find out if what we thought was true is true.
Well, and also to go back to, I guess, the previous question, I guess, combined forces, is that as long as once we have established common ground with, all these numerous ideologies, then we can branch out to the more lesser known issues and try to, I guess, close the tree as opposed to keeping the tree really branched out. Because I think the same thing goes, liberal extreme issues, conservative extreme issues, and then on like another type of tree, you have the conspiratorial type issues. So I think the stronger and the wider the actual stump of the tree gets, the more and more people will be willing and have open ears to see what other people consider as issues just as serious.
And that was part 1 of our interview with Mike Troy. Make sure you stay tuned for part 2.
So I'm saying, peace out, sayonara, see you later, alligator, adios, take it easy, goodbye.